What is good, everybody? Fury Fight here. Today we are going over Rachel. We're talking about her advanced movement options. I am going to probably just explain the win meter in another video, which will be linked somewhere around here. So if you haven't watched that, go watch that. If you don't know how to use the wind meter, seal feed meter, it's getting called wind meter, deal with that. But yeah, go watch that video. This is about the advanced movement techniques you can use with it. So, there are a couple of things you can do. Now, what the wind meter doesn't really declare and what a lot of people miss is its effects are active after you use the move. So, for example, this is the most common example, but I don't think that everyone really clocks on to why it works like that. So, if I do instant overheads, so just jump down A, like this. Oh, wow. Off to a good start. If I do it like that, if I jump cancel up that move, you see there the effects are still on it. That's why I get pulled back to the ground and why I don't just float off into the air. So this works when it whiffs, which I don't see a lot of people doing. So an example I've seen on Twitter quite a bit is doing something like this. So this is jump down forward A and then instant air dashing. Right? And you see how far I went there, right? That's basically full screen compared to what it normally is. It's very far. Right? How would you use this? So the easiest example is I play a composition of Rachel Ruby. So I have gunshot assist 6p. So if I do this, I get mixed up. Which is just really useful. It's a very shock way to get in someone's face if they're playing a more grounded game, which happens, you know, occasionally. Some characters are kind of trying to choose the way of getting in. They don't want to get caught in the air. Also, if I have projectiles out like this, people are not wanting to jump because I can air unblockable them with my DP. So in this situation, they might just sit there and block. So I can go, and then you saw there, the other one was coming in, right? That means I can get like mix-ups, not necessarily with what she's doing, but with what the projectiles are doing. It kind of depends on spacing, and it's harder to set up, but it's just something that kind of occurs in neutral from playing Rachel and trying to zone with her, is, you know, you have these different ranges, and suddenly that one's crossing them up, and you can throw your assist in there to like change the timing of that. You can even call your assist in there, then active tag to actually make the last one not cross up, which is going to be harder to do, but I'll try to show it off. So if I go like this, and I go down forward, and then go like that, there we're getting into the complex territory of like how this all can work and how this pieces together, right? So another thing you can use with this is Frog, or George II, I believe it's called, quarter circle back C. So you can input lots of directions with this move, right? And there's a couple of ways that this becomes useful. I'll show you the simpler way first. So I do this quite a bit because push blocking or just DPing through block strings is like a big issue for Rachel because she has gaps in her stuff. So doing something like an A, quarter circle back, and then you're moving out of the way of the DP. Taking them out of block stun, dash in, get your full punish. All of that stuff, that's really useful, and that's something that I highly recommend a lot of people use. The like consequence of messing it up is so not there. So if I like go this, for example, if they jump, they're pretty screwed. If they stay there, they're pretty screwed. If they DP, they're pretty screwed. Like, there are gaps where you could like backdash it, but that requires a lot of awareness that not everyone's gonna have. Another way the frog's really good is you can do it as a tiger knee motion. So if I go like that, saw there I was doing up back, not intentionally, but you can see I can do it right off the ground and then get a pretty quick overhead. Well, it's not quick, but it's low to the ground. And low to ground overheads are really hard to deal with in this game. So and being able to set that up from full screen, you know, with all these projectiles and shit, and then suddenly I'm in your face doing that, that's really hard to deal with. On to the next thing. Quarter circle forward B, 236B. This move, along with its A counterpart, are controllable by wind. It's really good. It helps you change the trajectory of the projectile, but it has other benefits. Normally, if you just hold forward or any direction and you jump afterwards, you don't get any effect from the wind. This is because it is no longer active by the time you're jumping, right? But if I activate the wind late, you see there, I'm jumping way further forward, and you can see kind of where I'm going with this. So, if I'm activating the wind as late as possible, I'm going full screen with my dashes. Now, another consequence of this late wind activation, I can actually combo off my quarter circle forward B. So if I go like this, and then I do a late wind activation as late as possible, and then go into my air dash, I'm getting a full confirm now for borderline no reason. I'm just tapping forward or down forward in that situation, late as possible. I'm using the wind that comes with it, and then I'm air dashing after. This is really useful because typically, once you lay this all on the ground, you're doing quarter circle forward, and then you're trying to do things like this, or you're using what I showed before with the A's, where you're going like down forward and then air dashing. And this it's really useful, but it has a lot of vulnerabilities, or requires you to use an assist to cover that up. If I'm already zoning with projectiles, and then I throw, something like that in there, you can see the projectile's going to hit. I'm going to be able to get a mix-up if they block it, and if they get hit by anything, I'm getting a full conversion. Really useful, very worthwhile doing. What I like to do in this situation as well, which is just a general thing with Rachel, if I'm zoning like this and I see them go into the air, if I have projectiles already on the screen, I'll look for the unblockable. Or if I don't have projectiles on the screen and I'm just throwing this out, there's no active sort of quarter circle back A's, I will use my Ruby assist to anti-air them. So if I do this and then see them jump, I'm going straight into back P or 4P, and I'm punishing that jump. One last thing I want to cover is this move. So this is the third hit of 5A. This move is controllable by wind, which is really useful. It has a knockdown if you go into the 4th A. You might have seen sort of conversions like this being used from it, where you hold up basically and you use the upward wind, and then you get your knockdown. That's all pretty cool, but this move is cancelable. So if I just put the opponent on block here, so block all. If I go 5A, 5A, you see there, I can't do anything but go into the other 5A. Now if I do wind with it, you see it pushes them to the corner. Once again, really useful. And now I can cancel that. And see there, I got an overhead just at that end point. And this is because I'm cancelling it into quarter circle back A or quarter circle back B. And if you time it right, you can get your overheads in. Obviously, all of this is complementing her core gameplay, right? This movement option of the wind is something that you'll be casually using quite often to get yourself out of like airborne situations where you don't want to be. But these things are the sort of like cherries on top that set up mix-ups mid-screen. Combined with a assist or just projectiles already on the screen and just, everything floating around, you're really able to start setting up some really good mix-ups that are just going to force the opponent into blocking or guessing or trying to DP. And that's exactly what you want as Rachel. You want them to have to guess, you want them to have to react to something. The more options you have, the harder it is for them to be situationally aware and able to punish all of this stuff. So, hopefully all of this is helpful. Actually, fuck it, one last thing. It's not the best thing in the world, it's cool. So, this isn't necessarily as related. I should probably be in a separate video. But the opponent is actually moved by the wind. And you can see that this is exactly what I'm going to talk about. If I do 5A and I pull the opponent out of the corner by super jumping and then doing down back A, I can create a cross-up situation in the corner. Most characters don't have access to this sort of stuff outside of having a boomerang assist that pulls them back out. So I can do shit like this. Alright? I can even change the timing on that, so I can go... That time I was on the front. Once again, front low. there's a lot of stuff there that you can use. All of this, obviously, like I said, you want to be having your normal projectile OK, you want to have projectiles on the screen, you want to force them to think, force them to block, and then you want to go for this sort of stuff. It's not the sort, like, you're not going to find me just going like from full screen by itself, because there's a chance it'll go over them on smaller characters, you know, it's kind of reactable. Things like this, it's the exact same deal. I might be able to surprise the occasional opponent, and I will do that, but I won't rely on it. I will be implementing it around my core gameplay, and the core gameplay is the important part. This is just the bit extra that will help you get an advantage against an opponent. So that's it. This is everything I'm using right now. This is the harder side of Rachel, using the winds correctly, because it's really easy to just kind of, like, I certainly do things like that, where I'm just like trying to zone and I accidentally use the wind, or I'm not really thinking about how I'm using it or what situation I'm in. I'll have like 3 pillars already on the screen, and then suddenly I'm using wind for this, where I could be instead doing things like using the wind late and then getting my mix up. There's loads of options there that are a little bit more advanced, require a little bit more situational awareness and reading the opponent. This is one that I highly recommend everyone does. Like, that's just flat good. Like, having that sort of safe pressure, yeah, it's nice. Especially with an assist, yeah, you're gonna hit some people. Some people mashing DP, wreck some like online rank match, nice. So, hopefully that was helpful. Just learn Rachel. I feel like I'm the only player playing Rachel right now, so if you play Rachel, hit me up. I need to learn some new shit. That's it. Take it easy, guys.